Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how I believe the first 3 rounds of 2023 fantasy football drafts should go. I'm going to be mixing my opinion with average draft position to discuss how I feel the first 3 rounds should go, because if we are going just strictly based off my opinion, there are going to be some players that don't go in the 3rd round in a lot of drafts that are in there, and some players that you would expect to be in the 3rd round falling even further. So I want this to be more realistic, so that's why I'm doing it this way. If you do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure that if you are new to the channel, that you hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into how I believe the first 3 rounds of 2023 fantasy football drafts should go. At number 1, unlike years prior, we're going to go with a wide receiver, not a running back at the 101, and that wide receiver is going to be Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think there's much debate right now on the 101. Sure, some leagues, Christian McCaffrey will go 101, but I think Justin Jefferson is very deserving of that spot. This team brings in Jordan Addison via the NFL draft, which is going to open up even more space for Justin Jefferson. This is a team that, compared to prior years, was throwing the ball a bunch more in 2022, and I think they're going to be a very pass-heavy offense in 2023. Obviously, Kirk Cousins isn't the best quarterback in the NFL, but you don't need that when you're going to be throwing the ball so much, and when a wide receiver is as skilled as Justin Jefferson, don't be shocked if this man drops 2,000 receiving yards in 2023. At number 2, we are going to go with yet another wide receiver, and we are going to go with Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. Unlike with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Sure, the competition of T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd can be annoying at points, but the upside of Jamar Chase is insane. Any given week, this man could win your week for you. He could drop 35 plus fantasy points. I don't expect this Cincinnati Bengals offense to kind of slow down in any bit, so Jamar Chase to me is an easy selection at the number 2 overall pick. At number 3, this is where some may push for Christian McCaffrey, and I definitely get that, but I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill in 2022 put up huge numbers, and Tua didn't even play the whole season. He had to deal with Teddy Roosevelt, Teddy Two Gloves, Teddy Bridgewater, and Skylar fucking Thompson, a rookie 7th round quarterback, and he still dominated for fantasy football. Now imagine what's going to happen in 2023 in the 2nd year of the Mike McDaniel system if Tua is able to stay healthy. Also, Tyreek Hill himself said that he didn't have the greatest understanding of the offense in 2022. So another year in the books for Tyreek. He figures things out even more. This man, another guy that could drop over 2,000 receiving yards. To me, Jefferson, Chase, and player number 4, Cooper Kupp, are all in the same tier together at the wide receiver position. I know I have Cooper Kupp ranked at number 4, but it would not shock me one iota if at the end of the season Cooper Kupp was the number 1 wide receiver. I know on paper the LA Rams offense is definitely dumbed down from years prior, and I know Matthew Stafford is banged up, but we have to understand just how good of a player that Cooper Kupp is, and just stop worrying too much about Matthew Stafford. The reports right now are pretty positive on Stafford, and if he's able to stay healthy, Cooper Kupp was the wide receiver 1 in points per game before he got hurt last season, and the injury wasn't even all that crazy. It's just the fact that the Rams were sucking complete and utter donkey cock that they ended up sitting Cooper Kupp for the rest of the season. Moving now to pick number 5, we have Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers, right? I couldn't wait that much longer to select Christian McCaffrey. This guy is the best dual threat running back in the National Football League. It wouldn't shock me if he had 1,000 rushing yards and 1,000 receiving yards in the same season. I know there's a lot of rumors. Nick, maybe they're gonna roll back some touches for Christian McCaffrey, even if they give him a couple less touches than last season. This guy is going to go ape shit on defenses in the NFL. If McCaffrey is able to stay healthy, he is a lock to be a top 3 running back in fantasy football. And speaking of running backs, my 106 is Austin Eckler of the LA Chargers, yet another amazing dual threat running back in the NFL. Obviously, there was a little bit of commotion early on in the offseason. He wanted to apparently get traded from the LA Chargers. Don't think that's going to happen at this point. Justin Herbert, the pervert, loves checking the ball down to Mr. Austin Eckler, and again, one of the best dual threat running backs in the NFL. I still think McCaffrey's better, but if you wanted to say Eckler is better than McCaffrey, I'm not really going to argue with you on that. At number 7, we have a drama queen in Stefon Diggs. There's a lot of drama going on right now. Is Stefon Diggs going to be on the Buffalo Bills, or is he leaving? He's saying, I'm, the opposite of Jordan Belfort. He said, I'm not fucking leaving. Stefon Diggs seems like he wants to leave. Sean McDermott shitting his pants in the press conference yesterday. Stefon Diggs, if he's a Buffalo Bill, he is perfectly worth a first-round pick. If he leaves and goes somewhere else, maybe he falls outside of the first round. At the 108, at some point, someone's going to have to draft Travis Kelce. I don't quite understand drafting him inside of the top 5. I get that he's getting up there in age, but he's still the best tight end in the NFL on probably the best offense in the NFL, and he's a guy that could put up 4 more points per game than any other tight end, than the number 2 tight end in fantasy football. He is that dominant, so I love Travis Kelce again. It does feel a little gross drafting him at the 108, but I feel like if you wait till too long, he might end up getting sniped from you. At number 9, we are going to go with the rookie Bijan Robinson. Obviously, this guy has been hyped up all offseason long. Everyone knows just how great Bijan was at Texas. Ultimately, he lands in Atlanta, a team that loved running the ball. They did it constantly with Tyler Algier last season. You have to imagine they're going to feed the guy they drafted inside of the first round of the 2023 NFL draft. He's also a solid pass catcher. He could finish as the number 1 running back. Now, I don't think it's necessarily as likely as Eckler and McCaffrey, but I do have them in the same tier together. At number 10, we are going to go with Davante Adams. Now, I've seen a lot of negativity put on Davante Adams as of recently. I know Jimmy Garoppolo isn't the best, but we saw last season that the Las Vegas Raiders brought up a quarterback from just the deep depths of hell, a guy who should be a starter in the XFL, and Davante Adams still had a huge season, so you better, or still had a huge game with him, so you better believe, even with Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Guap, Jimmy Pornstar at quarterback, that Davante Adams could still be a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football. At number 11, we are going to go with CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have a very solid offense. While they always do end up choking in the playoffs, this is an offense that loves to throw the rock. Dak Prescott is relatively safe as a quarterback, and CeeDee Lamb is the clear number 1 option in this offense out of the wide receivers. At number 12, we're staying in the NFC East, and we are going with A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, obviously, this is a team that has a 1A and 1B, right? They have A.J. Brown, and they have Devontae Smith, we're going to be talking about a little bit later. Jalen Hurts is a much better passer than people give him credit for. The Eagles are a fiery offense. Again, one of the other best offenses in the NFL. They almost won the Super Bowl last year. So I expect A.J. Brown to be really good. He was really good in Tennessee, and he was even better. He looked at his peak in Philadelphia. Moving now to the second round, we begin with Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions. Now, he is ranked a little bit lower on some websites that I've looked at average draft position, but I think he's worthy of the 13th overall pick. This is a team that has greatly improved compared to the past. These are not your old Lions. These are not the Lions that are getting the ever-living shit beat out of them every single game. This is a competitive team. Jared Goff is better than you probably think he is, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is the number 1 option in this great offense. Plus, Jameson Williams is going to be missing the first 6 games of the season, which gives an extra boost early on for Amon-Ra St. Brown. At number 14, this is where you might want to start considering more running backs, right? Because only 3 running backs went in the first round. You might want to start considering Saquon or Jonathan Taylor, maybe Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Ramondre Stevenson, but I'm going to go with my guy, Jalen Waddle. Now, I did hype up Tyreek Hill and talk about how much I love Tyreek Hill, but at the end of the day, I still think that Jalen Waddle is kind of like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, kind of like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, right? They're the 1As and the 1Bs. Jalen Waddle put up a great season in 2022. Again, I think if Tua is able to stay healthy, this Mike McDaniel offense is insane. They're going to get the ball into the playmakers' hands, and Jalen Waddle could be a top 5 wide receiver, just like his teammate Tyreek Hill. At number 15, at some point, you got to just start drafting running backs, right? And we are going to go with Saquon Barkley. Now, there's more trouble in paradise with Saquon Barkley, just like with Stephon Diggs. There's talks of a potential holdout. Now, that's not locked in set in stone right now, but that is something I'm a little bit worried about. Ultimately, though, if they resolve all these things and he's on the Giants ready to go for week number 1, Brian Daboll has completely shifted the culture in New York. This is a team where Daniel Jones looked the best I've ever seen the man in his whole NFL career. I am very excited for this Giants team. I think they're a sleeper this season. Saquon, obviously not a sleeper because he's a first or second round pick in a majority of drafts, but I definitely like him here at the 2.3. Moving now to the 2.4, we're going to go with another running back-to-back Michael Jordan 96-97, and that is going to be Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Last year, Jonathan Taylor sunk your fantasy football ship like it was the Titanic, right? It was a disaster. If you drafted Jonathan Taylor, he was a big, fat bust, but that was a team with the corpse of Matt Ryan playing quarterback. That was a team where they had 2 coaches be the head coach last season. They bring in a new head coach, Stitchen, who was with the Eagles. This was a guy that molded Jalen Hurts into being great. Now they bring in Anthony Richardson. This is a team that I think is going to want to run the ball. That is Anthony Richardson's specialty. Forget last season. I think you can still rely on Jonathan Taylor. At number 17, we got a player we have talked about in this video already, and that is going to be Devontae Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, in a vacuum, I prefer A.J. Brown over Devontae Smith, but knock on wood, if something was to happen to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith would likely be a top 6, top 5 wide receiver in my weekly wide receiver rankings. If you want those weekly rankings during the season, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you are new to the channel. Devontae Smith has that peak speed. He won the Heisman. He's built like a stick, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. He's a deep threat for the Eagles, and again, this is a team that is going to score a shit load of points. Moving now to player number 18, we have 9-inch Nicholas Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns were a topsy-turvy team last year. It was like watching a roller coaster. They were great with Jacoby Brissett, but they had some down games. And then they go to Deshaun Watson, and the team falls off of a cliff on a train like their name was Nathan Drake. And you know, I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to be that bad again. If he is, then the Cleveland Browns will be the laughingstock of the NFL. This team does not bring back Kareem Hunt, and I think that adds even more upside to 9-inch Nicholas Chubb's pass-catching kind of repertoire. He hasn't caught many passes in the NFL, but I think he is good at doing so. We saw it in college. Nick Chubb, I think this Cleveland Browns team, again, going to be pretty decent. I think they're going to be giving the ball a bunch to Nick Chubb, and that's going to get you a bunch of fantasy points. Moving now to the 2.7, we are going to go with a wide receiver, and his name is T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, another case where if something was to happen to the number 1 receiver, this is another guy that could easily be inside the top 5 of fantasy football rankings. Again, linked to one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best offenses in the NFL. We saw him put up huge numbers prior to when Jamar Chase joined the team. T. Higgins is an amazing wide receiver. If he was on a bunch of other teams in the NFL, he would be their clear, undisputed number 1 wide receiver. I'm a big fan of T. Higgins this season, even though he is the 1B on the team, because again, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be shitting on teams. They're going to be dropping 1 million points every game, and I'm very excited about that for T. Higgins. Moving to player number 20 at the 2.8, we are going to go back into the running back category here, and we are going to go with Josh Jacobs of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I was as off as you could be on Josh Jacobs. I thought last year that this Josh McDaniels offense was going to run a running back by committee. That's what Josh McDaniels has always done in the NFL, but magically, he decided that Josh Jacobs is that guy, pal, and they are going to run this motherfucker into the dirt. Think they're going to do the same thing again. Jimmy Garoppolo is your quarterback, so you better establish the run. And Josh Jacobs, sneaky, really good at catching the ball. Another player who's really sneaky good at pass catching, we have Ramondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots. A lot of early reports out of camp for the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick, is that we're seeing a bunch of Ramondre Stevenson. This team just said bye-bye. They gave the snip to James Robinson, my boy. Sadly, they cut him, sent him into the ether, and Ramondre Stevenson is set as the workhorse running back for the Patriots, and I think this offense is going to be a lot better under their new offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, Bob, compared to that stooge, Matt Patricia. At the 2.10, we're going to continue with the running backs, and we're going to go with Tony Pollard. Now, I do still believe this team could bring Zeke back, and I think they may end up bringing another running back in, but at the end of the day, I sung some high praises for this Dallas Cowboys offense early on. Tony Pollard, again, another running back that is really good at pass catching, as well as just running the ball as a whole, and even with Zeke healthy last year, Tony Pollard was amazing in fantasy football, so imagine what happens if Zeke is gone, and maybe they bring in like a Leonard Fournette, who kind of washed, if I'm being honest with you. Next up, we move to pick number 23, the 2.11, and we are going to go with Garrett Wilson of the New York Jumbo Jets. Now, I have seen people rank Garrett Wilson extremely high in drafts, right? I've seen his ranking be super high, and I get it, right? He had a great year last year with Zach Wilson, with Mike White, with cool Joe Flacco. That's cool. But I wouldn't be shocked if Garrett Wilson ends up disappointing a little bit in 2023. Everyone's building the Jets up to have this fine mansion, right? They're building this crazy exterior like they're playing Minecraft, right? When in reality, the Jets may end up being a dirt hut like you're playing Minecraft, right? This is a team that's getting all the hype. Are they the Denver Broncos from last year? Probably not, right? Because Nathaniel Hackett isn't their head coach. But Nathaniel Hackett is a part of the Jets coaching staff, so that's just great. At the end of the day, I think Rodgers is still good. I think Garrett Wilson will probably be just fine, but I don't feel comfortable at all drafting him early on in the second round. Speaking of another player that a lot of people are singing the praises of, Chris Olave at the 2.12. This is another player that I am avoiding pretty heavily. Now, I feel a lot more comfortable, though, in Garrett Wilson compared to Chris Olave. If Michael Thomas is able to play all of this season, you should not be shocked at all if Chris Olave is a big fat bust. Now, I understand that it is a big but, like Kim Kardashian, that fucking Michael Thomas is going to be able to stay healthy, right? Because he has not been able to do it recently. But we know Slant Man has that crazy upside. Derek Carr is going to throw the ball a bunch to Michael Thomas if he's able to stay healthy. We saw it last year. When Michael Thomas was healthy, he was feasting like Zeke does during Thanksgiving dinner. So I think Chris Olave is still a great player, but I question how high I've seen him go in, like, say, pick 3 of the second round in some fantasy football drafts. I think that's a little too high. At pick number 25 to open up the third round, we got to go with the boy Derrick Henry. Now, to some, this might be egregiously low for Derrick Henry. To some, this might be egregiously high. It seems like a lot of people are very polar opposite on Derrick Henry. Some people love him, some people hate him. I think I'm closer to the love. If I'm being honest with you, I'm ecstatic about Derrick Henry's upside in 2023. I don't care if Tannehill's the quarterback or if Will Levis is the quarterback. This team wants to pound the absolute shit out of the rock. Derrick Henry, sure, his yards per carry number has dipped over the last couple of years, but it doesn't matter if you're getting a zillion carries every single game. At the 3.2, this is where I feel as though we have to start throwing the quarterbacks in, right? I'm not comfortable drafting Mahomes or Hurts or Josh Allen in the first or second round, but in the third round, I'm a lot more open to it. So we're going to have a run at the quarterback position. My favorite quarterback this year is going to be Jalen Hurts, obviously because of the immense rushing upside, as well as the fact that this guy improved greatly as a passer. I think he's a lot better of a passer than most people give him the credit for. Again, I'm in love with this Eagles offense, but if you said, Nick, I'd rather draft Patrick Mahomes, who I have at the 2.3, I would not be mad at you about that at all, right? Patrick Mahomes, arguably, and not even arguably, he is, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL. This guy just wins Super Bowls like he's Tom Brady, right? This guy is going into year 7 in the NFL, and I don't even think if he played again, he would be a Hall of Famer. He doesn't even have to play again. That's how good he is. It doesn't matter who the wide receiver weapons are, right? Their wide receiver core is a bunch of scrubs, and it doesn't matter because Mahomes is so fucking good. Kelsey's so good. He's going to still finish as a top 3 quarterback in fantasy football. The other quarterback in the same tier is Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. Now, again, there's trouble in paradise with Stephon Diggs. Obviously, does that light shine the brightest light on Josh Allen? No. It's not the best for Josh Allen, But I think even if Diggs goes, they'll bring someone else in, right? Maybe D-Hop comes in to replace him, and I still think Josh Allen, just because of his rushing upside, if he continues to run the ball like he has in the past, he's going to get a bunch of rushing touchdowns. He's going to rush for a bunch of yards, and he has a fucking cannon equipped to his right arm, so he should be just fine. But obviously, will I be as gung-ho on drafting Josh Allen right next to Mahomes and Jalen Hurts if Diggs leaves? The answer would be no. After Josh Allen, we are going to move to the second tight end of the draft. I don't think Mark Andrews, who we're going with here, is worthy of being a second rounder. I can understand why some people might think so, because to me, he is the clear number 2 best tight end in fantasy football. But some people argue that Hawkinson is close to that, and George Kittle, right, and the others. So I don't really want to pull the trigger on the second round on Andrews, though I do know, even with the addition of all these wide receivers into the offense of the Baltimore Ravens, I still think when push comes to shove, when the game is on the line, Mark Andrews is getting the ball thrown to him. At number 30, we have Breece Hall. Now, Breece Hall is a guy that I think could easily be a second rounder come August. Right now, his health does kind of scare me. Now, all the reports are always positive out of camp. They're saying, oh, Breece Hall is going to be good to go in week number 1. Don't panic. Hey, look here. Don't fucking panic. And I'm panicking a little bit about it. If he's good to go week 1, again, I think the Jets are a little bit of a fugazi offense, but I still think that Breece Hall will be amazing, because if you just give this guy all the opportunities to be the workhorse, he will dominate. Plus, this is a big plus. He got hurt so early on to last year that it really shouldn't affect this season, but I know some people are worried about injuries like that because Breece Hall had a terrible injury. At pick number 31, we are going to go with DeAndre Hopkins. Now, obviously, we have zero idea what team he's going to be on. He went to the Titans. He could go to the Patriots. Who knows what team he's going to sign with? If he's on the Chiefs, he'll probably move up to the second round. I think the third round is very fair for DeAndre Hopkins. I know, again, some people are like, oh, this motherfucker's getting a little bit old. I'm not worried about his age. He was really productive last year with Kyler, and I think he could be productive regardless of the quarterback, even if he's on the Titans. I kind of talked negatively about him earlier in a couple of videos ago, but I've kind of changed my mind on that. I think he'll be just fine in Tennessee. It would suck, though, for my boy Treylon Burks. At number 32, we have a wide receiver that a lot of people like, but I don't actually like him that much. That is Deebo Samuel. Now, Deebo Samuel had an outlier year in 2021. He had a zillion touchdowns in 2022. He did not score anywhere close to the amount of touchdowns and was terrible for fantasy football. So the question is, was 2021 the outlier, or was 2022 just a down year, right? There was the quarterback cycle of the 49ers offense. Now, it's still musical chairs right now because we don't even know who's really going to be the starter week 1. Will it be Big Cock Brock? Will it be Trey Lance? Or maybe they're going to throw us for a doozy and go with mono man Sam Darnold. Again, Deebo Samuel is an immensely talented player. He is an amazing athlete. But where I've seen him go sometimes, like the second round, that is disgusting. At the 3.9, we got another player that I don't really love, and that's DK Metcalf. Now, in terms of skill set, just like Deebo, DK Metcalf is amazing. He's etched out of stone. He's a Greek god. He's humongous like the Hulk, and he's as fast as the Flash, right? He is the perfect agglomation, or whatever that word is, aboglomation, however the hell you say that word. Combination is probably the better word, of a wide receiver. He's fast. He's huge. He's on the Seahawks. That's great. But they draft JSN. They already have Tyler Lockett. And Geno's their quarterback. I know tons of people are sold on Geno right now, but I am not super sold on him. I think he'll be fine. I think the Seahawks are going to be good. But in the third round, do I really want a wide receiver in a room with 3 wide receivers like that? Like, sure, you might say, oh, Nick, you love Jamar Chase and Boyd is there. Yeah, but I feel like Geno is going to spread the ball out more than Joe Burrow, right? Tyler Boyd, he's the 3. He's amazing if someone was to get hurt ahead of him, knock on wood. But he's not really sucking in targets like Kirby, right? Whereas I think JSN's going to do that. Maybe not super early on, but I think eventually, at some point in the season, he will. At pick number 34, the 3.10, we're going with Calvin Ridley. Now, I know a lot of people are nervous about Calvin Ridley. He missed basically 2 seasons. He couldn't play last year because of gambling. He moves to the Jaguars. The Jaguars offense did a complete and utter 180 from whatever that shit was with Urban Meyer compared to Doug the Pug Peterson. Doug Peterson shape-shifted this offense into something Beautiful chef's kiss. Calvin Ridley, number 0 on the Jaguars. Looks amazing. I love the number 0. I've seen a bunch of clips of him. Now he's just jogging, running around. He looks still pretty crisp, right? He looks not super rusty. Obviously, the rust factor might scare some people away, but with how good this Jaguars offense is, if he is the true number 1 receiver on this offense, his ceiling is incredibly high. At the 3.11, we are going to go with my guy, Amari Cooper. Again, I am betting heavily on the fact that I think Deshaun Watson isn't washed. I don't think this Deshaun Watson we saw last season is the same Deshaun Watson we are going to see in 2023. Now, maybe he just needed a quick back rub to get things ready for 2023, but I don't think he's as bad as that. If you remember in the past, before all this crazy shit happens with him, this guy was talked about as a potential MVP of the NFL, as a guy that completely turned around the Houston Texans. And he has one down year, and everyone's writing him off. Sure, I get why some people, he's a bad guy, this, that, and the other thing. Well, guess what? Some guys are going to be bad guys that are really good at fantasy football. So take that out of your mind. Who cares, right? You're trying to win your fantasy league, right? You don't get points for being, like, super nice about things, right? I don't like what Deshaun Watson did either, but that doesn't stop me from thinking that this guy is way better than he was last season, if I'm being completely honest with you. And the 3.12, we are going with rookie running back Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going with him over Najee, Etienne, and Kenneth Walker. Now, I think it might take some time for Jahmyr Gibbs to kind of dive on in Michael Phelps style. Maybe it takes a couple of weeks for him to be successful. So if you are someone that your first running back, say you go, like how this draft goes, you go A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, then you go Gibbs. Gibbs might not necessarily be the best starter for week 1, but he has looked really good in training camp so far. He's obviously going to split with David Montgomery, but I think just based upon his receiving upside, and again, I don't think this is the old Lions. I think this Lions team is completely reformed. This is a dangerous Lions team. The NFL thinks so because they're playing the first Thursday night football game of the year, so I am ecstatic to see what this Lions team is going to do. I'm excited for Dan Campbell. He's going to chew some kneecaps off. Shout out to the boy Dan Campbell. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you thought that, hey, some of these picks are wrong, Nick, Josh Allen's a 2nd-round pick, or, hey, Calvin Ridley should be a 5th-round pick, let me know in the comment section. I'd love to talk to you guys down below in the comments. Love you guys all so much. I hope you enjoyed the format of this video. I thought it looked great. I got a brand new camera, 4K, beautiful, looks great. I love you guys all so much. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and as always, guys, good boy!